Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the 2019 Sloan Sports Analytics Conference Competitive Advantage Talks presented by Ticketmaster. My name is Jill Payne, and I'm a Sloan Fellow MBA student at MIT Sloan School, and it's my pleasure today to introduce our presentation, How Bose is Finding New Opportunities with Data. Please join me in welcoming our speaker, John Gordon, Head of Consumer Electronics Division at Bose, to the stage.
Thanks a lot. Whoa. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here with all of you. Thanks to our host from MIT. For many of you who don't know, Bose has a pretty special relationship with MIT. Our founder, Dr. Bose, was an MIT alum and professor. And at the end of his time, he donated the majority of the stock of Bose Corporation to MIT. So we actually have a really big relationship with MIT over and over. So sports analytics, not a topic I would normally think of Bose coming to talk to all of you about. So we're going to share a bit of a different topic today. How are we finding new types of data in the area of sports, and how can that create opportunities for all of you as you think about competitive advantage? So I'll start off with the relationship with Bose and sports. There's been a lot of people who think about how sound, how music can affect them. Who wears some kind of headphones or things when you're working out at all? Most of you do in some way, because it changes how you're doing, right? It can help push you further and make you work better. And so we see, all types of professional athletes do this in different ways as they're trying to train, as they're trying to get the best performance out. And it's not just for the pros, right? It's, as we just talked about, it's for every one of us. All of us do the same thing, and we're listening to our own type of music or sounds as we move forward and try to create a different type of experience to help ourselves perform better. But if you think of all those cases with Bose, where's the data in that? Historically, we haven't had any data involved in that, right? We have really played sound, we've reproduced sound, we've given you a great way to enhance your experience, but there's no more data. And so the question was, how can we find a way to actually say, with what we're doing, we have things that are actually sitting on your head, right? You're listening to them. We know which way your eyes are going. We know how fast you're moving. We know a lot of information about you. How can we start to turn that into data that can be used in a different way? So we've been introducing this concept called Bose augmented reality. And it's kind of weird because most people, when you think of augmented reality, who do you think of when you ask you about an augmented reality company? Anybody? Anyone want to yell anybody out? Magic Leap, Snapchat. Who else did you say? How about if you hold your phone up and catch little things, right? Yeah, people play Pokemon with that. So what do all those things have in common? What they put in front of your world to make it a little better is they put something in front of your eyes, right? They put something that you can see in front of you so that you have different images that change your world that way. And those are really great for certain situations, right? But if you're thinking about sports or in many other cases, you actually don't want to see something in front of you, right? When you're dropping back to pass, you shouldn't look at how I'm dropping back to pass. If you were going to drop back to pass, you don't really want a Terminator guideline in front of your face that says aim right here. It's a little too much. So instead, we as a sound company who's tried to use sound for 54 years to improve people's lives said, well, what if we can take what we understand about you, but the only things we're going to give you back are not things in front of your eyes, we're going to put sound in your ears, right? Like how a coach could be working to coach you. So we've decided we're going to take devices that Bose makes that we put on people's heads, and we're putting a bunch of sensors into them so that we can actually start to get data for the first time about what's going on with people wearing the devices. And then we've created a whole developer community now to help people use that data. So that's sort of the thesis that we've been on right now. How can we actually take a different type of way to improve people's lives by putting a layer of data that didn't exist before? So what does that mean? I'll give you a few more specifics about that. So all of the things Bose makes that go on your head going forward will have 3 different types of sensors in it. It has an accelerometer, so we know how you're moving, which way you're moving, how fast you're moving. It has a gyroscope, so it can understand your position and how you're bending or twisting or turning. That's all there with the gyroscope. And it has a magnetometer, so we actually know which direction you're facing, right? North, south, east, west, things like that. And when you start to combine that set of data together, you can get really interesting points that give you insight about how a person is performing. So I'll give you a couple examples. By the way, this is, since they said I was coming to a sports analytics conference, I had to show one chart with data. This is the only one I'm actually going to show. If you look at this, this is actually someone doing lunges, and the different colors of the lines are showing the accelerometer, which way it's moving in the X, Y, and Z dimension. As you can see, the one that's moving the most is the Z direction, or they're going up and down, right? Not front and back, not left and right a lot. So you start to get raw data, and what we do is we put some filters across that and algorithms that actually process it so you can see exactly where do the lunges start, where do they end. And so all those types of sensors can be processed to find information about the rates you're moving, how things are moving forward, so that you can start to collect that, again, without having really heavy new equipment on. I mean, this is now just, as we're looking at this, going to go in our regular headphones that you would wear while you're working out. So nothing special, nothing extra. It goes right in the same type of devices you're likely using already and helps you move forward. So how does that work? I gave an example of a difference of this before for athletes. When we first kicked off this concept almost a year ago in Austin, Texas at South by Southwest, I was working with one of our investment partners, Aptiv. They're a big sports training program, and they're probably one of the leaders in kind of virtual audio-based coaching. And so I was doing one of the workouts, and it said, go for this run. I did a run. Then it said, go down. It said, do a plank for something like 2 minutes. I did a plank for something like 40 seconds generously, and then I sat up. But the app has no idea, right? So it's talking like, keep going, you can do it, this is going to be great. And I'm in Austin, I'm really just looking like for a place to get a taco or something at this point. And what's different with the data is the data actually knows your head moved. You sat up, you're not sitting down there anymore. You have come up in that direction, you have changed your behavior. And we understand now that could tell you something about, should I change the coaching and feedback? They don't have to change any of the content of their story and their training, but they know when events like that take place, they can now put in something that says, get back down there and keep going, right? You can do better. And for all of us who've ever trained with trainers, they take notes, they give you coaching, but they can't have the level of detail to know exactly how you're doing and how did you perform against the last time. It's really hard to do that without a lot of expensive equipment and data. But now, if you had Bose headsets in with Bose AR, we would know if you're doing push-ups and how many did you do, and when did you start to slow down, and how many, how did your rate go, so that not only can we give you feedback, but we can find the data to tell you how your workout is comparing to what you've done in the past. So there's a whole new set that makes this something that you don't need big special equipment. You actually just go into things that you wear. So for the athlete themselves, there's a bunch of areas that we're excited to be working with partners to make those into areas to help improve performance. In our case, we're building devices, right? We're going to start plugging this into more and more devices. But I'll give you a second case. So getting beyond the world of sports for a second, one of the areas that we learned was really powerful when we started this was travel. So how many of you are guilty of going, and I do this all the time with my family, but going for trips and like you're walking around looking at your phone, trying to figure out what the thing is that's in front of you, right? And how do I get from here to there? What's this interesting looking building? Well, what we found was the same set of data that you can put in those headsets, since we know where you are geographically, your phone has a GPS on it, but now we know the compass direction, we know what you're looking at. The team set it up so that if you're looking this way and you tap on the side of glasses or headphones, it can tell you about the thing you're looking at without you ever taking your eyes off of it. So stay engaged with each other, stay engaged with the world, and actually get a set of information again that it augments the real world, but it doesn't put stuff in front of your eyes. It really enhances what you're looking at. So this started in travel, and it got really interesting because they said you could imagine that this same building here could have, what does it mean during an MIT sports analytics conference, and there's different things in the rooms, but what does it mean at another time, or what's the history of this? All the audio of the world can actually be pinned to places around the world that you hear through these devices. So it's a whole new level of data. So that might have sounded really interesting for travel. A bunch of folks are starting to say, what does this mean for sports venues? Because if you think about how people move through sports venues, whether you want to understand more about the plaque that was up here and get a richer history spoken to you while you're looking at it instead of looking at it again through your phone, or you need guidance through to some places, understanding how to make that experience richer is something that can be done now without, and people have used beacons, they've used other devices. This just says anything that you're wearing from Bose, that has the Bose AR capabilities in it, can start to put a layer of audio on top of it to make that whole experience richer. So we've started to see people saying, I want to make that a way that we engage with different companies. I was with some folks from one of our other major leagues here just this week in New York, and they were talking about how do you even tell people that maybe I can strike promotions and things to people at different areas if they've opted in for our Teams app, right, in some ways. So it's another layer of data that increases the arrangement that we have across the teams in that space. So then the third one that I liked about this a lot, think about how could we build different types of gaming experiences. And what the gaming experiences start to do is try to make it immersive for you to be in the real world. So imagine now if we know where your head is moving. If you're walking down the street wearing something, you're playing a spy game, and as you're walking, the game says, is there anyone behind you? And you're like literally out on the street with just people around you. But you turn around to look and see if someone's behind you, and it knows if you turned around or didn't turn around, right? Because it figured out if your head moved. And then it said, and then you either say yes, they all have microphones, or you nod, either way, and you're indicating that, yeah, there's someone behind you. So they say, I think one of those people is following you. They're not following you. It's just a game. But it's made the world feel like there's someone behind you. And they might say, walk 10 paces ahead and bend down like you're tying your shoe and see if they pass. Well, now, unfortunately, whatever this poor person is that's behind you feels like they're in the middle of a spy game, maybe trying to kill you, and they're not. But it's made the world seem very rich. And when you start to see the storytelling kind of personalized experiences that people can get with just having the ability to understand how you're moving and what you're doing, it's changed the game a little bit from being able to think about things as just things that you play remotely to things that you can be really, really deeply immersed in. So that's the angle that we have looked at in this space. And so we're talking about this from the data side and the analytics side. One of the important parts is in many other cases where people have looked at how do you get data into things people wear before, they make them buy special devices, right? If you're going to go buy another augmented reality headset, you'll probably just use it when you're driving augmented reality experiences, but you're not going to walk around with it every day. So what we tried to do with Bose is we said, let's go and find devices that we're going to give to customers for just the capabilities you expect for Bose. So did anyone see any of our ads for these Bose frames yet? I saw a number of folks who had them before. These look pretty much like sunglasses, right? They're very light. There's nothing else in them. They have speakers in the back of them right here. And so they're not bone conduction or anything else. They just play music so that you can hear them as you're walking around. They have a whole bunch of other little ports in them that cancel the waves that are going any other direction. So the ones pointing right at your ears, you hear, but the people around you don't hear them very well at all, right? Because they cancel all that sound. So it's a really discreet way to just have something on your head that goes through and gives you a chance to have that great audio experience. Well, what we did is we put all of those sensors into these devices. And so we have a number of people will now go and they'll buy them not because they care about all the data and the ways to improve performance. They'll buy it because they're really great things to wear on the beach, right? They're really great things to ski with. They're really great things. Someone was just telling me that they had a motorcycle article about how you can wear it under helmets and it sounds really good for that, but it keeps your ears open. So people will buy them for reasons like that. But they give us an opportunity to offer to them solutions that help improve their performance because the data is available. So this coming week at South by Southwest, we're going to go back to Austin and we'll announce the first set of applications that are available for devices like this that help, again, take advantage of the new data and create ways to have more performance. So we're going to announce those next week. And around that, we wanted to build an entire ecosystem for developers because, again, Bose is a hardware company, right? We build good quality devices with great sound, but we're not a sports performance company. So we want to work with people who are doing sports performance and creating solutions. And so we'll have the first group of people that we're working with that we've talked to starting next week. For anybody else who's interested, you can get to our developer site and go and look and see how that is coming together and what kind of data you can get and how to use that. But that's been our angle. So our goal is to help showcase people who are building great solutions for performance. Now, I'll tell you one thing that was interesting is we have looked at this idea. It could be an interesting idea, but if there aren't enough devices out there in the market, they don't become interesting, right? If it's not worth it to go build a great app for something that sounds cool and can be a really good demo, but no one has them. So what we wanted to do is we committed to at least having 1 million devices in customers' hands this year. And we did that. The first product we announced was those sunglasses. There's a few different models of them, but we announced those just in December. And that's the first device that's going out. And we actually haven't told anybody this yet, but the next device that we're putting all of our sensors in are Bose over-the-ear noise-canceling QC35 headsets. So if you go pick those up, they'll have the same Bose AR sensors in them. And we know tons of athletes and people wear those as they're warming up and in sports. You can get them customized in color for your area, but they all have the same set of sensors into them. And those are things that we move millions of, right? So as we start to look across our area, we want to make sure that enough people have the ability to generate this data and opt in to use this data so that we can give them solutions to help improve their performance as they move forward. So with that, I'm going to open up for questions just a second. But our goal on this was to look at new ways to take something that people are doing all the time when they're in sports. We listen to music. We use it as an opportunity to improve our own performance. But to do that, we usually put something on our head, and understanding the data from how that thing moves is really, really critical. So we're not changing prices for any of our products that we announced. Whatever you were going to buy before, you're going to still buy it at the same price, but we're now going to have it have the capability to have this data in it. So if you decide, I want to figure out how to use my data to get better performance, that will become available for you. So it's both for athletes in a way to help improve their performance. It's for fans as you think about how to use the place that you're working or the place where you're participating. And it's just for life because the same capability that you wear around can help you if you're walking through a city or trying to play games or changing things in a different way. So new set of data, new areas, new type of performance. So with that, let me open it up for questions. Any questions? Sir?
Is it a opt-in type process where consumers are aware this kind of information is being tracked and
Yeah.
have some control over whether it's passed to a third party?
Yep. So the question was, for you guys who can't hear it, is it an opt-in process? So first, the devices don't send any data to anybody as by default. As you go in and say, I'd like to use this application, you give the application the right to let it have the data, and then it can use it. So it's entirely consumer-driven as to who gets to use what. But no, great question. Really important. Anybody else? Yes, sir. To you, absolutely nothing. The cost is what's the cost of adding the sensors into the devices? For you, it's absolutely nothing, right? For me, we eat that as part of just building the device out and getting the foundation ready so that we can get all these experiences the right way moving forward. Our expectation is that the hard work is not to find a sensor that does those 3 movements. You could probably find a bunch of ways to do that. It's actually the libraries and the developer code that converts that into things like the lunges and the push-ups and the sit-ups and the gestures and the voice controls and all the others. So the actual sensors themselves are not a material amount of cost. The ability to actually create a set of tools and devices for an application set of developers to use is a big investment. And the ability to get them out at scale by just embedding them into all the devices that other people have is a hard thing to do, right? To make it worthwhile for people's time. Otherwise, anybody could knock anything together and build a really cool demo. It just wouldn't be economically feasible to chase. Yeah.
Is this model moving forward? Is that charging a rate for developers as opposed to you're creating a critical mass of apps? Is that how you see making profits off of this data?
Yeah, so the question was, do we envision our path going forward charging developers money to make path for apps? Bose has been, and for the foreseeable future will be, a great product company. And we are first, foremost, all in a great product company, right? And we intend to that be our area. We hope that if you'd buy Bose devices because you remember what before we all had smartphones, right? We had flip phones and things, and they were great. When smartphone entered and they said there's a whole new level of data and ways to work with them, very few people moved into that space at all. So our business model is predicated on building great devices that are high quality, that deliver great audio, that deliver great style and design, and move forward. We want our developers to have their business models. We want them to be really successful, make their money out of this space, and we think that's great. We think for everybody to win is a good way to help shape the industry forward, and hopefully get people back engaged with each other and with the world around them by just making it a little bit better instead of trying to distract them from that. So that's our core value proposition. It's really interesting, right? Because we don't have to have any ulterior motives, right? We just we sell great devices. You know what you bought when you paid for it.
The events that you described, so push-ups, sit-ups,
Yep.
things like that, are those predefined, or would I, as a developer, be able to actually get into the raw data and be able to build my own models to identify
Yeah.
some other types of events?
Question is the data predefined or is it something that you can get into? So we want to be able to build your own.
The events themselves, if they're predefined.
Yes. So what we want to end up doing is having 3 tiers of people who can use these. I'll go the most rigorous first. So if you want to take the raw sensor data and go come up with your own gesture or movement for it, a company we were working with made a lightsaber swinging game that knew if you were like dodging something, right? It was really interesting, right? But they come up with their own types of gestures that they did. So that you're pulling raw data off. So the step up is we continuously improve the libraries for different types of gestures and movements that we see repeatable people that have interest for it, right? So we'll make that, and then you don't have to worry about converting the 2 things I showed you. At the highest level, one of the things that we found is this stimulated a lot of content creators, right? So movie studios and others, or maybe you own a sports venue, right? And you don't want to code anything. You just want to put some audio over a plaque, right? So we have a creator tool that says if you take a map, take a geography place of where you want to go, you can just take audio files that you've recorded and just tie them to places, so that then anyone wearing a device could look at the thing that you just put it on, and if they tap for it or ask for it, it will tell them about the thing that's there. So 3 kind of different levels of technical depth that can be required, and we've seen really good interest at all 3 coming forward. Does it help? Yeah.
So for the other companies, like I'm wearing Fitbit right now.
Yeah.
And maybe Apple, they have Apple Watch. What would be the difference and advantages that make Bose different from those?
Yeah, so the question is what makes Bose different from like Fitbits that many of us wear, or Apple Watches? I'd say in concept, right, we're all having different types of wearables that generate data. What we think is interesting in our world is actually the data around where your head is and how your ears are moving is pretty relevant, right? You can get some directional data. You can take some data and headings from as people are moving. Your wrists might pulse a bit if you're doing a push-up. They don't actually move. So there's a lot of ways that there are things that you get when you actually know where the left and right side of someone's head is instantly, that it's harder to get other ways. So I don't think fundamentally there's something different about collecting data from a wearable and making it available to move forward. But I think our premise is that there's a lot of knowing where your head is, that your head's for most of us, head's a pretty important thing. And so, having something that's tied to that helps out a lot. Okay, maybe time for a couple more. Yes?
I saw a quick flash of Bose Ventures.
Yeah.
From a capital deployment perspective, how are you thinking about using that for innovation, investments, acquisitions, and are there any specific trends and themes that you're particularly bullish on?
Yeah, so the question was Bose Ventures. How are we deploying capital against that? So we announced a $50 million fund to help companies that want to be investing in this space. They tend to split between either core technology companies that are things we think help us build the platform out and make that available well, or application companies that are building solutions that we think will help showcase what the platform can do. So we've put a bunch of it to work so far, but there's a bunch more. So anybody who's got great ideas and could use some investment help to get started, we'd love to chat. I'm about out of time. Thank you guys very much. Thank you to MIT for having us here. Take care.